So today we're going to be learning how to read sheet music, and there's just a few basic things that you have to understand. First of all, there's two clefs, the treble clef and the bass clef. So on a piece of sheet music, what you'll see is this, and then each one will have 5 lines. So right here is 5, and then right here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then right here you'll have the treble clef, which looks like this. And then down here you'll have the bass clef, which looks like this. And then, so you have these lines, and then in between there's spaces, and notes will go on the line as well as the spaces. So the line notes are these ones. And then you have the space notes in between. And the names are E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and then F. These are all the notes in the treble clef. And they all correlate with specific notes on the piano, because on the piano there's many different octaves, so there's many different E's, F's, G's, and so on. And then this is right here, this is where middle C is, and all of the notes are based off of that middle C. And in the bass clef, the notes are different. So if we draw them again here, this is not E anymore, this is G, and then you go A, B, C, D, and then E, F, G, and A. And then on this bass clef, the middle C is actually over here. So all these notes are below middle C, and all of these notes are above middle C. And as you can see, this middle C is not on any of these 5 lines, it's actually on a ledger line. And ledger lines are what are used to help you draw notes that are either below these 5 lines or above. So you can have notes like this, or you can have notes up here, or you can even have multiple ledger lines like that. So it'll just help you see notes that are higher or lower than the staff that you're given. And as you can see, that this is usually where it's lower, so it's usually where the left hand plays, and more often this is where the right hand plays, but obviously it can be switched around. And also there's these things called sharps, flats, and naturals. So this is a sharp, this is a flat, and then this is a natural. And these will either raise, so this raises the note, this lowers the note by a half step, and then this cancels out any previous sharps or flats. So on a staff, let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say we have a treble clef and we have this note. So we know that this note is a G because it's on the second line. And if we want to raise it by a half step, we'll put a sharp in front of it. So now this is G sharp. Or if we want to lower a note by a half step, we put the flat in front of it. So if we have a note here, we know this is D. Now if we put this in front of it, this becomes D flat. And the thing about flats and sharps is that they stay throughout the entire measure. So if we had the treble clef again, and let's say we have G, A, E, and then G, A, G again. So if we put a sharp in front of this G, and there's nothing else in front of these G's, that means they're all going to be played as G sharp. And it lasts until you see a bar line. So after that bar line, this will no longer be valid, but for the entire measure, these are all going to be G sharps. The same thing goes for flats. However, if we use the natural sign that I mentioned earlier, and we put it in front of this G, that means the G sharp is no longer valid, and this will just be a regular G. Okay, and then the next thing we have is key signatures. So oftentimes you'll see right after the treble clef or the bass clef a collection of sharps or flats, and this just tells you what the key that you're in, and these will be valid throughout the entire piece. So even, for example, if we have an F, A, C, if we have these notes, it looks like there's no sharp or flat or anything in front of them, but you're going to play, F. You're going to play this as a sharp and this as a sharp as well, because the key signature tells you to. And there can be all sorts of key signatures. Sometimes you can have nothing, sometimes there can be as many as like 7 flats or sharps, so it really depends on what you have. And then also, another thing that will be at the beginning of the measure next to your clef is the time signature. And this just tells you kind of the rhythm that you're going to play at throughout the piece. So for example, you could have 4-4 right here. And these two numbers mean different things. The 4, the number on top right here, this means how many of a certain type of note you're going to have, and this tells you what that note is. So with a 4-4, it means you have 4 quarter notes per measure. So if a quarter note just looks like this. So basically your basic rhythm is going to be 4 quarter notes. And you can have many different things. You can have, for example, 3-2. That's 3 half notes, so it's going to look like that. And then you can have 6-8. That just means 6/8 notes. So there's many different combinations of things that you have, and it's important to look at your time signature beforehand to know what your rhythm is. And finally, there's a few symbols that are pretty standard and pretty basic, and you'll see in most pieces. Of course, there's a lot of different ones, but the basic ones for now are when you see this lowercase kind of cursive looking F, it means fortissimo, and that just means play loudly. And this can go from 1 F to 2 Fs and even 3 Fs, and that just means very, very loud. And the opposite of fortissimo is piano, and this just means play very quietly. And this, like F, can go to 2 or even 3. So 3 of these means just very, very softly. And another one is this. It's an M and an F put together, and this can be, this just means mezzo, forte, and you can also have MP, which equals mezzo piano, and this just means play at medium loudness or medium softness. So it's just kind of a in the middle loudness. And another symbol that you should know is this thing. This is called a crescendo, and that just means you want to play from a softer kind of sound to much louder. So play, I guess, on a scale from soft to loud. And the opposite of that is this, which just means diminuendo, and it's the opposite. You play from loudly to softly. And yeah, so these are just a few of the basic things that you'll need to understand when reading music. And as long as you keep practicing and experiencing different types of sheet music, then you'll get a lot better at this, and it'll become a lot easier.